Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I thought I'd talk to you guys a little bit more about co-angling. Now obviously I'm not an expert in co-angling. I really just started, doing the co-angling tournaments, with the Bassmaster Opens. In those two tournaments though, I have learned quite a bit about it. Have I learned everything? No, absolutely not. I've talked to quite a few anglers, boaters, and some other co-anglers too, and kind of got some of their opinions on some things and heard some stories about good things and bad things that happen while they're while, like, for example, the boaters had their co-anglers. So I'm just gonna go over some scenarios and stuff like that. I kind of want to just go over in this video. Last video was about my setup, what I brought with for tackle and rods, and some tips on what to do in certain things, like with certain things like rods, keeping them contained, garbage and stuff, keeping your stuff well contained and well organized, or somewhat organized, so it's out of the way. Anyways, so that was the last video. In this one, we are going to go over like scenarios and stuff, and what I believe, in my opinion, what to do and what not to do. Okay, there's a lot of this stuff is probably going to be common sense for you guys. You're probably like, well, yeah, duh, right? But there are a lot of people who don't really understand this, and I've talked to a couple of them, and just to kind of get their point of views. That's it. So there's no confrontation, of course, but I just want to talk to a few people, a few anglers, boaters, non-boaters, and just kind of get their perspectives. And I got some. So first thing I want to start off, again, mentioning that this is pretty much my opinion. I'm not an expert, right? So take it with a grain of salt. Maybe some of the things that I do are not the right things, but this is kind of how I feel and kind of what I've got from when I was talking to a couple of the boaters, quite a few of the boaters. So first thing is, of course, when the night before you have your tournament, your day one, for example. You got day one, day two typically in the open. So before day one, you know who your boater is. You call them up, be like, hey, okay, and you guys talk. Communication is key, with this, and you ask them, the typical questions. Hey, what kind of areas are we going to be fishing? How deep? Are we going to fish deep? Are we going to fish shallow? If it's got largemouth, smallmouth, are we going to fish largemouth, or are we going to fish smallmouth? A little bit of both. All those questions. But then that's also a good time to ask, about cooler wise. Say, how big is the cooler? I plan on bringing like maybe 5 drinks. Is there be enough space? Typically there is. And then also extra storage. Sometimes they'll have a compartment, behind the passenger seat, on the back deck, that you can put some of your stuff in. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's full. Sometimes they have a little bit of space. Talk with your angler, your co-angler. Talk with your boater the night before, and make sure that and if they don't have a space, be like, okay, no worries. I'll and just make sure you have it contained in your backpack or a separate bag connected to your backpack. Communication is key. So make sure you talk to your boater, and things are going to go smooth. Now, when you're out on the water, your boater pulls up to the spot. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen. There's a fishing a TV show. I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it down here because I'll remember after this. But there are 2 anglers in a boat, same boat. There's a line down the middle of the boat. You cannot cast across that line all the way up. You cannot cast across that line. That's typically how I figure that the co-angling and the boater, non-boaters and boaters need to be. Non-boaters are not allowed up on the front deck unless certain situations, or unless the boater says, hey, can you come up here for something, whatever it is. So anyways, you guys pull up to your first spot, and there is a juicy tree right out front, and your boater makes the cast up there, and with a frog, misses it. The fish comes up, just misses it. Big fish. I know it's hard. You want to cast up in there with your wacky worm and get that bite. I know you do. I mean, I would too. But you have to hold that. You can't do that. That is, it's an unwritten rule. I mean, it should be a written rule, but that is a spot that your boater had picked out, and that's the waypoint. Understand, before I get deeper into this, just understand this. These guys have a lot of money into this, and a lot more money in entry fees, you know, travel costs, boat costs, you know, whether it's maintenance, gas, and I always help them out with money. I try to bring about $100 and give $100 to my boater every time, just to kind of help out with gas and whatever they got. So, and they really do appreciate that. And you know, and it should be a no-brainer for non-boaters and co-anglers, you know, one and the same, right? But it should be a no-brainer for co-anglers to bring that to help with, because you shouldn't be expecting a free ride. You're in the boat, you're catching fish, you know, help pay for some gas and stuff like that. So anyways, so you want to throw up at this tree where that big fish missed. Don't do it. You're gonna have a bad day, because if you do catch a fish on that, you do catch that fish, that's the fish that boater, you know, might need. And this is a scenario that actually has happened. I talked to one of my boaters, and this actually happened. He threw up there with a frog, missed it, and the co-angler threw up there with, I can't remember what lure it is. I can't remember what lure it was. I thought it was a wacky worm. I could be wrong, but anyways, threw up there with the wacky worm and caught a 4-pound bass. And that was a bass that actually would have put him up in the standings and might have pushed him off into the Elite Series at that time. I can't remember when this had happened. It might have been a while back, but it happened nonetheless, and it should not have happened. So the way you got to think about it is, you guys pull up to a spot, you know, you got to feel it out. Don't cast right away, unless you're casting straight out at the back of the boat, like straight out the back, then that's fine. But don't cast at an angle, 45-degree angle up towards the boat, up towards the bank, until you know which way your boater's going to go and what he's going to cast at. He or she needs to have first option, or first dibs at those spots. They found them. They spent the time and the money and their practice to go find them. Okay, so give them those spots, because I mean that's the right thing to do. If you start casting up over their shoulders and stuff, trust me, they don't like that, and you are going to have a bad day. They're going to be really angry. And I don't know if this has happened to anybody, but there's a possibility they could just go drop you off at the ramp. So you're done. Drop you off the ramp. If that's the way you're going to be, you're going to start. And I don't blame them. If it's legal, I would expect that, because you're taking their fish away from them, if you think about it. And that's and essentially that could be moving them up into spots in the standings. Now you're taking money away from them. They're winning the possible winnings. This stuff snowballs so fast. So please take care in that as well. So, and like I said, you know, I'm not an expert. These are just situations that should be common sense. But I hear a lot of stories of this stuff still happening to this day. And that's where I think some of these co-anglers are having really bad days with their boaters, because I think, I don't know, I'm not in the boat with them, but it seems like it's what they're doing is they're casting over their boater's shoulder, and you know, casting in the spots where that boater's going to cast and stuff like that. So I mean, that's a huge no-no. You're going to have a really bad day and possibly get dropped off the ramp, especially if you start catching their fish like that. Now, the boater I talked to, he kind of shrugged it off, and he said, "Hey, he's like, hey, you know, let's, you know, just hold back. You know, once we pass that, then you know, go ahead and cast at it." Which, that is what I do. So what I do is, for example, dock fishing. We pull up to the docks. I don't even get up out of my chair. I wait for the boater to get up there and get the trolling motor in, and I wait for him to make a cast. If we're heading straight for the docks, I won't make a cast unless it's out of the back of the boat until I see which way he's going to turn, and then I'll cast the other direction from where he's going, or I will cast straight out to the dock from the back of the boat. I won't even angle up towards the front of the boat at all, because that's the spot where he might hit. And now if they're fishing, say, the one side of the dock, there's a single dock that comes out, a single platform dock. If he's fishing the one side, I won't even fish the other side or anything around that dock until he's done fishing that dock, because there's a potential, if you've got like a flashy bait, that you can pull that one fish away from his bait over there, and you can pull it away, and you're technically pulling, is not really stealing, but you're catching his fish, or you're pulling away from him. So I will even wait, and that gives you less of a chance at a fish, right? But it's respectful. So, and this last tournament, I caught fish off of the docks. I caught quite a few fish off the docks behind my boater this last one, and he didn't do anything wrong. He was fishing it really good. I was just fishing something different, and that's all it takes. Don't fish the same thing that your boater does. Fish something different. If they're fishing something slow and they're picking it apart a little bit, throw something that moves, and don't throw it in the exact same spot. If they throw there, don't throw there directly after. Wait till they pass it, move on, like I said before. But throw something maybe that moves a little bit, or say if they're throwing like a wacky worm, maybe throw like a jig, or you don't have to be drastically different, but a little bit. So mix it up a little bit when you're following your boaters and you're fishing the same areas. But also, before you start fishing that area, make sure that they're on to something else before you start. And I'm no good at fishing docks. I can't skip to save my life, but I can get close, And so, I mean, and sometimes that's all it takes. But, you get a really good angler that can skip underneath that dock. They are going to get the majority of the fish, and that's okay. That is okay. They won't catch them all, because not every fish is going to want what they're throwing. So that's where you come in, and that's where you'll throw something different. The next thing I want to talk about is, so we talked about being respectful. Don't throw over your boater's shoulder. When you're in the back and they're fighting a fish, make sure you got your stuff, either out of the way, by your seat there, or you can grab it quick enough to get it out of the way, so that way they can get down there and land that fish. When they get a bite, when they get big fish on the line, and they need to get down by the seat and land it, make sure that you can move it out of the way there for them, and give them that space. They really do appreciate that. Another thing, with communication, it's okay to talk to your boaters too. You can talk to them, ask them some questions and stuff like that. I mean, don't interrogate them, but you guys can chit chat and stuff, and get to know each other. And the more you do, the better of a day you're gonna have, because then it feels less like fishing with a stranger. It feels like more like fishing with a buddy. And I learned that pretty quick too. Just chit chat with them, and converse and joke around, and and just try to have a good time. You're out there pretty much to learn. Yeah, it's great to win and catch fish. That's you want to win and catch fish. Who doesn't, right? But learn from them. And if you're not catching fish, just take in the day and take something from the day. So like what I mean by that is, learn something from your boater. Just kind of watch what they're doing, and just pay attention. And I don't mean pay attention to dirty little secrets or anything like that, or anything like maybe, for example, skip underneath docks. Watch how they skip underneath docks. How do they do it? They get to roll it. They how they're throwing it. That's what I was doing. I haven't been able to apply any of it, so I'm probably still going to suck just as bad at docks. But that's a situation where, if you're having a tough day, just take a deep breath, relax, enjoy the day, and try to learn something. If they're skipping docks, like I said, learn, watch them, see how they're doing it, and see if you can pick it up. One thing that does come up a lot, especially nowadays with forward-facing sonar, and saving this one for last, because this tends to get to be kind of a touchy subject. But with forward-facing sonar, you got the guy you got your boat in front of the boat, and unfortunately, us co-anglers, we're at the back of the boat, right? Well, and a lot of guys are like, well, if there's nothing back here, they're looking at a boulder up there. We don't know that. Sometimes the boater will have their electronics on at the dash. You can check that out. and you're not looking for secrets or waypoints. What you're looking at, what you should be looking at, is like to see what they got for the sonar down below the back of the boat. Sometimes fish do swim underneath the boat, you know, even when they're up there focused up on like a boulder like 50 feet in front of them. Fish do swim around that lake, all lakes. So sometimes there'll be a fish swimming underneath the boat. You just watch that, just drop straight down. One of the lakes. So I was fishing in Leech Lake, and for the one open, and you know we did some of that. You know, both days, half and half, kind of largemouth and then smallmouth. And what I did is I rigged up my drop shot, and I always kept that in the water. I mean, you think about it, you can't catch a fish if your line's not in the water, right? Give yourself that opportunity to catch the fish. Keep that line in the water, even if it's straight down below the boat. You still have a chance, you know, of a fish swimming by. What I like to do is pay attention to the boater and which direction he's going. If you don't know, ask him, be like, hey, man, which way are you gonna head so I know where to cast? I don't want to cast over your line. And let them know that too, because then they're gonna say, oh, well, I really appreciate that, you know, and yeah, I'm gonna go this way, so, you know, whatever's, you know, good to go. And sometimes when they get their limit and they get a really good limit, they'll be like, hey, cast wherever you want. So, but don't do it until they say something like that. But yeah, so I mean, when I was fishing, you know, when we're fishing for smallmouth out deep, you know, I just, you know, started casting around, and I did check out his graph. Looked at his map, not for waypoints, but I looked on the map for it because he didn't have his sonar on, so I couldn't see underneath the boat. He's going back and forth a couple different things. I looked at the map, so I could see like where the reefs are and kind of where we're sitting on those reefs. And as long as he wasn't casting at those areas back there, I would cast at them and just, you know, and I could feel the boulders underneath there. So I mean, you still have a chance. It's not as fun, of course, but that's okay. That's all right. As long as you keep your line in the water, keep casting, keep working at it. I mean, it can be a lot of work just, you know, blind casting, but that's what we used to do anyways, kind of. Before forward facing sonar, you always have a chance at a fish. Just make sure you keep that line in the water. Okay, last thing here. I don't want this video to take too long because really all this stuff is super simple and it's really a no-brainer and should be common sense. But you're in the back of the boat, say if you guys go up to some docks and stuff, and I ran into a couple of situations like this, you know, in the past tournament. If you guys are getting close to the dock and, you know, your boater's, you know, kind of, he gets tangled up or something in the front and he doesn't see that his motor or you know, the back of the boat is going towards the dock or going towards, like, say, some rock structure if it's up shallow, you know, either let them know, hey, you know, your back end's getting a little bit close here, and then help keep them away from that. You know, don't let them beat up against the dock, and they are really going to appreciate that. You know, just show that you do care about, you know, their you know, their boat and, you know, their hardware and stuff too, and they're, you know, they are going to be very appreciative of that. Just let them know, hey, you know, you're getting a little bit close back here. I'll push you off a little bit. You know, don't just like, you know, really push off, but, you know, make sure they keep off and push off a little bit, nice and slow, nice and easy. And then same thing with the boat. But if you can't reach, or I mean, same thing with the, you know, with the motor. But if you can't reach the back of the motor, there's nothing you can do, but you're slowly going towards something that you know you're going to hit, that you wouldn't want to hit, or anything that's going to make contact with the boat. Just let your boater know, be like, hey, you're getting pretty close to these rocks back here. Your motor's probably, it looks like your motor's going to hit here shortly, or whatever it might be, a stump, or, you know, whatever, or a dock. Just make sure to let your boater know that, and man, they're really going to love you for that, because they don't want any damage. They don't want to do any damage to their boat. They don't want to do any damage to any docks or anything like that, or any other, you know, personal property either. So keep in mind, you know, keep aware of that too. I guess it's not entirely your responsibility to make sure that they don't run into stuff. It definitely isn't, but it's a courtesy thing. Well, I think that's going to do it for this video, guys. I mean, there's really not a whole lot to this. I just wanted to jump on here and kind of give you guys my perspective and a couple of things that, you know, happened to me, and, you know, things that I've heard from what I've talked to from boaters and non-boaters alike. this subject can get kind of touchy for some, but it's really a common sense thing, you know. And now I understand you're not always going to have a fantastic boater. You might have a bad boater, you know what I mean? Someone who is, you know, they just might not be very nice. It happens. Just, you know, take it with a grain of salt. You know, fish, try to lighten the mood with them, and, you know, try and have some fun, and, you know, just be respectful. That's all. And here's the thing, even if they're disrespectful to you, still be respectful to them, because that will still go a long way. And then they can't, you know, say, well, man, this co-angler, you know, did this. He might not, you know, if he's a bad angler, if he's a bad boater and kind of a crab, you know, kind of crabby and kind of mean, he might not say what he did before that would have made you, you know, upset, and to do something like what, you know, whatever would have been that you did. Then that would be giving yourself a bad name. No matter what, hold your composure and just do your, do you, and just be respectful, and, you know, have fun out there, and make a good day out of it. I know I did. There's, you know, I didn't always, you know, the one day I didn't catch any fish. And a couple of days I caught one fish, you know, one keeper a day. I did catch some other fish, but, you know, keeper wise. And then, you know, the last day I was out, caught a ton of fish. You're gonna have days where you're gonna zero, and you're gonna have days where you get one, and then you're gonna have days where you just can't keep them off your hooks. No matter what the day is, just find the good in the day. If it's a bad day, find something good within that day and take it back with you. So that's it, guys. You know, again, you know, just know that I'm not an expert in this stuff. Okay, I haven't fished that long. Take what I say with a grain of salt. I just know what I know from my experiences and the boaters and non-boaters that I've talked to. So, and everybody's gonna have a different story. They really are. So, but I really appreciate you guys for sticking around. I hope this helps some of you guys, and, you know, maybe it'll be useful to you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you in the next video.